Let's go now to the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Pennsylvania Congressman Bill Schuster. Sir, thanks for joining us today. I know this is a tough time for you today in your state and what you're looking at in these horrific pictures. Ironically, at the same time, members of Congress today are debating and talking about funding and a budget for Amtrak. What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on your program, and our thoughts and our prayers are with those victims of that horrific accident, and our thanks goes out to the first responders for their response, and Mayor Nutter, who's doing a great job. The Appropriations Committee today has been debating that. I think it's important that we wait and see what happened there, what was the cause of the accident, before we start to have knee-jerk reactions. And the NTSB, we've been in constant contact with them. They're doing their job, and we're waiting to see why this accident occurred before, as I said, we have knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, we already have the Appropriations Democrats calling for full Amtrak funding in wake of this crash. I mean, you understand what they're doing. This is their position, and they're using the emotion of the time to say, look, you know, if we had had more funding, maybe ... What do you say to that?
Right. Well, as the authorizing committee, we've authorized $1.4 billion plus a grant program we want to put in place to help the states make the investments needed. But as I said, I think we need to wait and see what the results are, what happened in Pennsylvania, and based on those facts and what happened in the accident, then address the situation at that time.
It's interesting because in Amtrak's own press releases that it sends out, it actually points out the fact that they need better infrastructure. As a federally run operation, how do you respond to that?
Well, one of the things Amtrak has always said they need more funding, but we in the House approved a reform bill for Amtrak, and they also need to operate more efficiently. They need to operate more like a business, and that's what we put into our reform bill, which we passed in March on a bipartisan vote to do things like keep the profits from the Northeast Corridor in the Northeast Corridor. Today, it's the only profitable part of Amtrak, and they take those dollars and distribute them across the country. So part of our reform is to keep those dollars in the Northeast Corridor because those are the folks that are paying for it. And you have the most important rail corridor in the country in the Northeast Corridor, not just because of Amtrak, but because transit and Amtrak all use that corridor. Over 200 million people ride those rails every year. Yep. And it's very important to the nation that we make sure we pay attention to what's happening there and do what we need to do.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, because viewers who are watching all across the country maybe aren't as familiar with the fact that this is a mode of transportation for you and for me and so many people who live in this part of the country. Congressman Bill Schuster of Pennsylvania, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gretchen.